The views and opinions expressed on this platform are of me, myself, and I, not any agency I'm affiliated with. So please do not take what I say personally. So, with everything that you've learned along the way and everything you will continue to learn along the way and everything in between, what is a piece of advice you'd give to someone either going into EMS or someone already in EMS, someone thinking about making the jump and going into EMS? Like, what is something you'd want to leave people with?
I feel like if your character and you as a person, if you're not built for it, do not do this. And I really mean that with the core of who I am as a person. Like, genuinely, don't do it. Don't do it. My mom told me something a long time ago. If you aren't built for it, don't do it. If you aren't built to lift 1,200 pounds, why would you do that?
Yeah.
If you aren't built to break horses, why would you do that? You wouldn't. If you aren't built to be an EMS and have the capability of being here for someone, or if you don't have the ability to retain the knowledge needed to save a life and have the compassion and the drive to do so, don't do it. It's fine. It's okay. No one's going to judge you for not being here. It's fine. But if you do, and if you feel like you have that type A personality and you think that you can retain this knowledge and that gut feeling that's needed and what's necessary, then absolutely full send. You know? If you're built for it, then do it. And that's okay. It's fine. But I think that you genuinely, when you ask yourself, can I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning after having a full, busy 24-hour shift? Can I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and show up to an assisted living to help somebody up off the floor just into their bed and be kind about it? If you can answer that question and say, yeah, I can do that, then okay. But if you're getting into it just for the, excuse my language, but the shit and gigs, just here for the full glory moment, I'm sorry, but go join Top Gun.
Yeah.
Go be Maverick. Go do that. Go do something else. Because this is not that job. 85% of what we do is very boring. It's not fun. It's not fulfilling for most people. I say that with a grain of salt. But that 15% that really weighs heavy with the rest of us, that's why we're here. But those of us that are the greats, we're here for the rest of the 85.
Yeah.
You know? So don't do it.
Kind of in that mindset. When I was going through my paramedic clinicals, it was like, I think my first clinical where I feel like it should be an expectation that you're going to, like you said, fumble the bag. You're not going to do well, and it's expected. Like, you shouldn't be like an absolute moron, but at the same time, like, you're learning how to be the lead person from the get-go. So I had a medic look at me and say, if you're not cut out for this, don't be a medic. And if you don't see yourself doing this for the long haul, like the next 3-4 years, he's like, there's no shame in leaving.
Right.
And it, partially, I got mad. I was pissed because I'm like, are you saying I'm not made for this? But then, like, I took that with a grain of salt, and I actually told, back when I was in Utah, we had a paramedic student that was clearing with us, and we were talking to her, and me and my partner, we were talking to her, and I was like, do you see yourself doing this long term? She was like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And I looked at her, I was like, there is no shame in saying that. Because she put her head down, she was like, I don't think I'm made for this. And I told her, I was like, It's
Yeah.
admirable to have the courage to say that.
Right.
And if you just are interested, like you said, if you're interested for the lights and sirens, the picking people up, bringing them straight to the hospital, all this stuff, like, you need to leave, because that is not what all we do. And if you can't handle the being nice to Meemaw at 2 a.m, telling her, like, it's okay if you fall, call back, we'll come back, blah, blah,
And
blah,
really
blah,
mean
blah.
it, though. But
and,
really mean
and
it.
actually mean it, not just like say that as you're like looking off in the distance, already preparing, like, when I get back, I'm not writing this report, I'm going straight to bed. I think it takes a lot of courage for somebody to say that. And I heard that on a podcast. They were talking about, it was these 2 medics, one of them is now a flight medic, and they were talking about this guy who left EMS to literally, he moved to Hawaii and worked at like a surfboard shop, something like that. And everybody had talked about how crazy that was.
Yeah.
Just like that he did that, he left.
That's a huge leap.
Yeah, the complete 180 from everything that we do. And
What's up, brah?
one of them, surf's up, brothers. And they were talking about how, like, it is wild that everybody looked at that and said, this guy's crazy. But what the guy, but they were like, why does that make him crazy?
But here's my thing. Was he happy?
Yeah, so much happier.
You know what I'm saying?
So,
I would love to be able to be in a surf shop. Just serving up surfboards.
dude, I talked to somebody last week, and we talked about it. Like, I wish I could work and be happy in a 9-to-5 office job. Have weekends off, have a structured environment, be able to clock in, do whatever I need to do,
And go
clock
home.
out, and go home. And not have this residual, like, am I going to get off shift after the worst call of my life? Like,
Yeah.
what does the next call hold? Is the next call going to make or break my career? Is the next call going to be the thing that wakes me up at 2 a.m. with cold sweats because I can't get that mom's scream out of my head? That was really
Dude.
dark. I'm sorry.
No, but it's true.
But seriously, like,
It's
that's
true. And look, the dark and twisty of this job is the things that people really search after, right?
Yeah.
They join this job because, just to be honest, they're nosy, right? I want to be there to know what's going on.
Yeah.
I want to be at that accident on the side of that interstate that's got all those lights and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that seems interesting until they're there and it's somebody that's on fire with their children in the backseat.
Yeah.
And then it's like, holy crap, I can't manage it. So don't do it. You know? Don't do this if you, for one split second, think, I can't handle being there during the worst moment of someone's entire life. Because, like I said, there's 15% of our job is that serious stuff, and you still got to be here for the rest of the 85. Sorry, hate to break it to you.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to do that, then you certainly don't deserve to be there for the 15.
No. And again, if you can't handle it, I would even venture to say, if you're in EMT school and you're on your clinical ride times where you're literally just along for the ride.
Times
Yeah,
that
the
you
two.
get in
Don't get me
EMT school.
started.
Yeah.
Don't.
The 2 12-hour shifts that really prepare you. My paramedic's like, can you set up a duo nap? I don't know. Can you set up a 12 lead? What is that?
But there are only 10 wires. What do you mean 12?
What do you mean? What do you mean? What's a 12 lead? I counted it. It said 10.
But, like, if you can't handle that, even if you're in EMT school, I know it's a financial investment. You've put your money into it. You've studied for it, whatever. If you want to back out from there, please back out. Like, don't become one of these providers who just stick it out of pride and say, I'm going to do this because I come this far and I'm going to work on the truck. And then you go to paramedic school, you go through all this stuff, you get your registry, you get your patch on your shoulder.
Yeah, dude.
And you're one of the people that again, not throwing shade at anybody, but I'm thinking of if they showed up at my house, I'm gonna just transport myself to the hospital.
Yeah, for sure. I'll go POV.
Yeah.
You can cancel.
Literally.
No, but what's so funny about that is I don't know if you felt this way when you were in EMT school, but like I said, you have 2 12-hour shifts, like 2 12-hour clinicals, and mine were back to back. And I remember being in the back of the ambulance, and I know my preceptor to this day. Like, she's freaking phenomenal paramedic, and now she's an RN. Her name's Heidi. I love that woman. I would marry her if she'd let me. But I remember being in the back of that ambulance, and the first time we went lights and sirens, I was like in the back Snapchatting it. Right? Yeah. You remember that? You remember doing that?
I have selfies in the back.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Oh my god, we're doing lights and sirens. You know? Yeah. This is what I'm here for. This and the uniforms. And then, dude, them calls hit real hard, though.
Yeah.
You know, you're here for this, that, and the third, and then that crap hits you like a brick wall. And you really got to be able to face that. And you have to be able to manage it. Not just face it, but manage it.
Mm-hmm.
If you cannot, you got to go. Yeah. I hate to break it to you. I hate to.
Because it's not just the call, but it's one of my favorite podcasts. He talks about it's beyond the call. Yeah. It is the things that you carry that, and like the lay person will be like, you guys go through so much. Like, what's it like dealing with blood? And what's it like dealing with people who are dying? Like, it's not the in the moment. Like, I know what to do in the moment, but God,
I'm so over it.
Literally, like, I'm driving home from shift, like,
and I'm thinking, dude, like, I just heard a husband bawling his eyes out because I just pronounced his wife dead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but F the blood. Are you kidding me? F the vomit, F the feces, F the urine. Screw all of it. Dude, I just heard somebody screaming out in a pain that I can relate to. That, if you can't manage it, don't do it. Don't do it for 20 seconds, and definitely don't do it for 20 years.
One of my favorite people on this planet, I have a couple of favorite people, but one of them, and I've had him on the podcast, James Boomhauer, but I've called him after a shift, and I was like, dude, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know how I'm going to live past this call. Mm-hmm. And he told me, he was like, have you thought about teaching EMS and getting off the street? I was like, dude, I'm not about to get off the street. Yeah. I'm not about to get it. Like, I'm not going to be that person. But he told me, he was like, this is a hard job. He's like, it doesn't make you any lesser. Never makes you any lesser. And I'll never forget that, because I was like, no, I'm going to get through this. And I've gotten past that call. It's no big deal. It is a big deal. It is a big deal.
I was about to call you out.
I've gotten past that, but it's that moment of transparency of like, okay, this is the job. This is what we sign up for. And again, it's not just that, but like, if you can't live through that, if you can't, not necessarily tuck it away, because you should have people that you talk to about this stuff, but like, if you're not able to accept that this is now something that you will never forget,
it's your reality.
100%, it is your reality now. This is what you carry. This is what, and that's what, like, as much as it is, 85% of our job is the abdominal call, that you do all the tricks and tips and all this stuff. You pull out the whole toolbox and you go through it with and stuff like that. It is that. And then it turns out there's nothing wrong. They get discharged from the ER 3 hours later with like gastroenteritis. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. Or like you think it's a stroke and it's something minor, whatever. Like,
oh, well, this was their normal GCS, by the way.
Yeah. And you're like, oh.
Oh.
It's still stuff like that's 85% of it, but the 15 is like, as much as we sign up for this, and again, if you're not willing to sign up for it, there's no shame in that. But when you put that patch on your shoulder, when you accept that you're getting dressed for a shift and you don't know what's about to pop up, you don't know if it's going to be a shift of absolute nonsense or it's going to be that call that like
really changes your life.
You're holding a 3-month-old dead baby in your arms.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's going to be that.
That's right.
You never know. And you're putting on that uniform and you're saying, whatever's going to happen, this is what I'm signed up for.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
And if you're not willing to do that, if anything, I commend the people that step away from this job and, not to out anybody, but go sell mattresses.
Yeah.
Versus like somebody that's like, I'm going to just get through this and I think I'm going to make it and I'm going to get, I'm going to get my patch and I'm going to do awesome in this job, whatever. And like, I'm just going to get there and I'm going to see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, go sell mattresses, please.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get that person that you know through somebody else, or you're going to get to a scene where you know somebody, and even though you have to put aside everything else and you have to be in that moment, it's hard. Mm-hmm. It is so hard.
Yeah, for sure. And it definitely is. I'm here for that 15%, but I love that 85. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that would be the quote of my entire career. Like, I'm here for that 15%, but I love that 85, and I hope my math is correct. But let's be honest.
I'll put it this way. We had a lady who I was sold out. I would have put money on that she was having a stroke. Mm-hmm. Checked her blood sugar. It's a diabetic problem. Hands down.
Imagine that.
And I literally was like, about to call the Louisiana Emergency Response Network. Like I was about to make the phone call, and I was like, let's check her blood sugar, and it's like 31. She's so responsive, and I'm like, oops.
Oh crap.
Glad we checked it.
Thank God.
So I'm like, we're treating that at that moment. I'm like, and I go back inside. I'm like, hey, thank you guys for, calling 911. Mm-hmm. Low key, I told the family, like, you should have called earlier. But it's fine.
Yeah.
We're here now.
Right. Let's manage our health emergencies a little bit better.
It's 10 a.m. You've known that Meemaw has not been right since 7 a.m. But now that we're here, we're giving her the medication. We're going to bring her to the hospital, blah, 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 blah. That's not the point. The point is that she's getting taken care of. But, like, just driving to the ER, knowing that Meemaw is now responsive, she's able to talk. I'm asking her about her grandkids. That is the call I crave. Mm-hmm. Versus
the ones you can fix.
Yes. Versus like the guy from a week earlier who was driving his bicycle, got hit by a car at 50 something miles per hour. And he's fine. He's like, yeah, my ankle hurts. And his ankle is not okay. It is not okay. But I'm also like, hey, are you sure your stomach doesn't hurt? Are you sure you don't feel short of breath? Are you sure that, like, going through all this stuff and literally intensely watching him the whole 20-something minutes to the local level 1 trauma center, I'm like, my eyes are not off of him because I'm like, at any given second, it's going to be his O2 sats drop. And I'm going to have to needle D this guy.
Dude.
Any given second. Like, I would. And at first, going into paramedic school, I'm like, I want the calls. I want to save people's lives. I want to do all the nitty gritty stuff. And now I'm like, please give me Meemaw who missed dialysis and doesn't feel good. Versus like, and I don't think
who
that makes me.
Dialysis without AFib and kidney failure. Like, kidney failure. Yeah.
If you are starting out of this job, if you are halfway through EMT school, if you have gotten your patch, if you are starting out paramedic school, and or if you have gotten your patch, you made it all the way to paramedic. I would say even if you're a flight medic, but I feel like at that point you're sold.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
If you have just gotten your paramedic patch and you're on your own, if you have just gotten your EMT patch and you feel like you can't do this, it is okay to go. No, and if anybody tells you anything different of, oh, well, that makes you like, you're just a chump, you should, you don't deserve to be in this field, please don't listen to that, and just have the respect for yourself to be able to say, I don't want this on my subconscious. I don't want to go to bed thinking of these memories. I don't want this. For me, it's literally like, there was one time I was falling asleep on shift, and we had an easy shift. The easiest shift.
Yeah.
We had one call in 14 hours. The easiest shift. And I'm laying in the bed of the station, and I literally had a flashback to a call. And again, please go to therapy if you need it. There is nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely nothing.
If anybody tells you any different, they are full of mess. Do not listen to that. But I had a flashback to a call, and I questioned within myself, and this was pretty recent. I'm going to out myself. This was pretty recent. I had a flashback to a call, and I thought to myself, I could do anything else in this entire world. Anything. I could take my experience and go do another job. Should I? And I spent the rest of that shift contemplating that. I spent the next day looking up other jobs. And I have enough respect in myself to say that is not a wrong move.
It's not. It's not. And you know what's crazy about that is when I was in EMT school, I was a bartender. And they were going over assessments, and they said, is anyone here a bartender? And I said, me. And they said, what is your normal conversation as a bartender? And I was like, I don't know, just asking what they do, like who they are, like what's going on with their lives. And they were like, that's what you're going to do as a paramedic, EMT, EMR, whatever. That's what you're going to do. That's your entire MO, is just asking questions about that person, right? So there are so many jobs that you can do aside from this that will give you that satisfaction of knowing what it is that somebody is up to. If it's just forgive me, but a nosiness factor. No,
Facts.
I want to know what's going on in your life. Like, who died and why? You can ask. Right. You can ask those questions as a paramedic, but you can also ask those questions as a bartender. You can ask those questions as a friend, and you can ask those questions as somebody who minds their business. You know? Like, I feel like it's hateful to say, but it's also not problematic when I say it isn't anyone's business. What's going on in someone's personal life, whether it's physical or mental, has nothing to do with you. And I think if you, like I said earlier, if you aren't cut out for it, don't do it. Sorry. Hate to break it to you.
Hands down.
As blunt as that might sound, but just don't do it.
And that's what I ask this question every episode, and I get something different every time. But I've had, I think, maybe one or two people actually say, like, don't do it. Mm-hmm. And I have
what were their reasonings? I mean, I've listened to pretty much every single episode, I think, except for the last week one. Last week's. I forget, though.
It's literally like, because this job wears on you. Mm-hmm. And that's such a cliche thing to say, but at the same time, it is such a factual thing of like we talked about, I think probably off the air, but like, it's so hard to shut it off. It is so hard to go home and shut it off.
Yeah.
Because these are people's lives.
Yeah.
And that morale of like what somebody went through. And like, I hate the phrase, well, it's not my emergency.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is a whole human being. And
correct.
You are brought into somebody else's perspective and somebody else's life in that moment. And like, I can hear people that I've worked with and people that I know say like, well, that's why you don't get attached. You can't help it.
Cliche BS.
Yeah. And even like, not as a woman, because, you know, that's the emotional aspect, but as a person who has feelings still in this job.
I hate that you had to say that.
Yeah, same. That goes back.
I hate that you had to say that.
That goes back to the aspect of like, it's not because I'm a woman in this job. It's because I still have actual compassion.
Yeah.
So.
And what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
I hate the whole idea that if you empathize with the patient, you're putting too much of yourself into this job.
Yeah. The people that you have had on this podcast, what was the longest term of EMS career that they have had? So my career has been 8 years. Who has had an equal or greater than career?
I don't think I've had anybody longer than 15 years. Right. And if you're listening and you're that person that I've had on that's been longer than 15 years, I'm very sorry. I don't think I've had anybody longer than 15 years.
So what did those people of 15 years say about being in EMS for 15 years? Did they enjoy it? Do they see their future being in this EMS career and things of that nature? But at the end of the day, like, do they still enjoy it?
Yeah, I've had a couple of people that when I send the questions and I'm like, you know, what's a piece of advice you give? And they respond, they text back or like on the phone call, they're like, oh, well, don't do it. I'm like, say that. Yeah, please say that.
Say it.
It needs to be said.
Yeah.
Because as much as like, I think of one guy, Dave Allen, who literally he rejuvenated my entire career in EMS because of his passion. He's been in this for I forgot how many years, but he's been in this for years. He's still a basic, doesn't want to be a paramedic. Mad respect.
Yeah, 100%.
Mad respect to that.
Good for him, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That reminds me of my partner, Blake. He's been in this for 15 years.
Yeah.
He's finally considering paramedic school, and I'm trying to push him because he would be so
He would be a good medic.
Yeah, oh my God. But, dude, I love those. I love those basics who are there for me.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have a lot of them.
No.
Not in this generation.
There are shifts where I literally, like, I think it was when I delivered a baby which is a basic skill. I'll say that. But at the company. You don't have
to say that. That's scary.
Dude, there was nothing beautiful about it. And that's people like, oh, the birthing process, delivering, bringing a human life into this world is so beautiful. Like, this woman's water broke in the back of the ambulance. She delivered the baby in the back of the ambulance. Nothing was beautiful about it. It was
at all.
It was awful. And so it was like a normal delivery. The baby's fine. The mama's fine. I found out a week later we were going to Taco Bell, me and my last partner, and the grandpa worked at the Taco Bell. And he was like, thank you guys for delivering my grandchild. And I'm like, you're welcome.
Funny about that is I responded to that patient like 2 weeks after you delivered that baby.
Seriously?
Swear to God. She was fine. She was complaining of abdominal pain, but everything was normal, and she got sent back home. What's crazy is when I walked in, I recognized the address. Because who doesn't recognize the address of a baby being delivered kind of at? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I recognized the address. We showed up, and I was like, what's up? I'm good. Everything's all right. My belly hurts. Everything was fine. But what I think is funny is within a span of 2 weeks, we both delivered babies out of the same area. funnier than that, is that a word? Funnier?
Yeah, it is. As a former English teacher, it's a word.
Okay, great.
I'll fight anybody who says otherwise.
The day of delivering the baby that me and my partner delivered, told my partner, because I was doing like a research thing, I said, man, you know what scares me more than anything? Pregnant ladies.
Same.
They terrify me.
I've paced in the back twice in my life. One time is when I was about to cardiovert a patient for the first time ever. And if you don't know what that means, it means delivering X amount of joules of electricity to a patient's heart because of the rhythm that their heart is in. So I paced right before pressing that button because I was like, I know what's about to happen. They can either make it through this or they cannot. There are two options. So I paced.
And they were pregnant?
No, not that patient.
Oh, Jesus.
He was fine. He ended up fine, whatever. The ER patient, like, they ended up shocking him like 5 times after. But he ended up fine. The second time was when this lady, she was in the process of delivering a baby and had not delivered yet. We were 7 minutes from the ER. And I literally, I had done everything I could. Hooked her up on, it was a 4-lead, had her on fluids, and I'm literally pressure bagging this fluids to stop the contractions and give her some fluids that she had already lost. Gave her Benadryl because she'd actually started the delivery process in a bathtub and was like allergic to something, blah, 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 blah. Gave her some Benadryl. And there's nothing else I can do, so we're bringing her to the hospital. My partner's like hauling it to the ER. I'm pacing in the back because she's getting dilated. Like, she is ready to have this baby.
But why were you pacing?
Because I didn't want to deal with that. Pregnant OBGYN calls are the bane of my existence. Hands down. I hate OB calls.
I do too. I do. And I'm a woman, which is crazy. I know. I mean, I don't, but I do.
I don't ever plan on knowing.
Yeah, well, I do. And I'm ready for it, and I'm excited. But at the end of the day, that is going to terrify anybody, right? Man, woman, doesn't matter. We're all going to be scared because we love kids. Yeah. Our entire existence is based around them. We want them to survive, we want them to be happy, and we want them to be healthy. At the end of the day, that's what we are doing all of this for, is for them. So, it's so funny to me. And again, I told you, I have bad luck. I have the worst luck ever, dude. I'm sitting at a computer, like, going through, like, my research with my partner, Blake, who's been doing this for 15 years. He's amazing. He's intelligent. He's helping me. I said, Blake, I'm not going to sleep, and neither are you. You're helping me with this. He said, okay, cool. So he pulls up a chair, and we're going through it. And I was like, man, pregnant ladies scare the out of me. He's like, yeah, me too. I promise you, 3:30 in the morning.
No.
Him and I delivered a baby. I can't make that up. That was the Lord, or whatever, divine existence, but somebody was saying, haha,
joke's
LOL,
on you.
check this out. You know? I swear to God, it was so funny. We showed up on scene, and it was, you know, your typical pregnancy calls. You get a call at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's water's been broke for the last 3 hours. Contractions are like 3 minutes apart. Cool. We show up on scene. I'm pissed. I'm so mad. It's 3 a.m. I'm like, what the Why are they not at the hospital?
Right.
What are you doing here?
And you know there's going to be 5 cars in the driveway.
Yeah, literally there was, though. We pulled up, there was 4. It wasn't 5, but it was 4. It was an SUV, a Mustang, and a freaking something else and something else. I don't care. But there was 4 vehicles in the driveway.
our ambulances tap out mentally after like you hit 80 miles per hour. They're like making noises. They're like, please stop. Please stop.
And I tap out at 20 miles an hour.
Yeah. Like,
Sorry.
So you know that Mustang can go so much faster. Especially you get pulled over. This is a side note. If you get pulled over and you tell a cop, I'm on my... And you're... Not that you should drive with your hazards on. But if your hazards are on and you get pulled over and you tell some... Like a cop, an officer, whatever... that you're on your way to the hospital, they're just going to follow you. That's it. Like, I doubt you get a ticket. I really doubt you get a ticket. They're going to follow you to the hospital. They may even, as I have had it happen to me, driving my, like, somebody else is driving me to the hospital, and we get pulled over, and it's me wheezing in the passenger seat, and the officer says, I'll escort you to the hospital. And they escort you because they understand, like, this is an actual emergency.
I have not had the same emergency.
The ambulance...
I have put my hazards on because I was late for work. And I have been hauling butt to get to work. And they have pulled me over and still given me a ticket. Even though I'm in uniform. Hate to break it to you, but it doesn't always work that way. Maybe I should have, like, wheezed.
It's either the wheezing or the tears. That's always what works for me.
Oh, I'll cry next time.
If you cry. Yeah. Sorry to any officers out there, but honestly.
We love you so much. Stop writing us tickets.
Please stop writing me a ticket because I have places to be.
I've got one on my driver's license already. I do not need another.
Just paid off a ticket from Texas and it hurts still.
Yeah, dude. All right, so we show up on scene, and this is what I mean when I say, when you have a basic who gets it, they get it.
Yeah.
So it was already a crazy night for us. We had already, like, pulled up on scene for something else, and I was like, this is a cardiac arrest. And the patient hadn't even coded. The patient was, like, in our view, and I was like, I promise you this patient's about to code. And my partner was like, oh, okay. And I was like, I'm calling for backup. Called for backup. Patient coded. We did what we needed to do. My partner felt a little behind the 8 ball. Like, that's one thing I love about him. Like, he's capable of saying, like, I don't think I did that great on that call. I'm going to do better. That's what I love about him, right? So, we still got pulses back on that call. He did a great job. Brought the patient to the ICU. Patient was discharged. We literally were clearing up from the hospital was when we got this pregnancy call, which was funny. Again, like I said, that morning we were going through, like, you know, whatever. And I was like, dude, pregnancy ladies, they scare the shit out of me. He's like, dude, me too. And I was like, all right, great. So we clear up, you know. At this point, it was a rainy day in Louisiana. We did CPR on a patient in the mud and the rain.
Quality.
Drenched. Covered in mud.
I feel it in my soul.
Literally wanted to die. And had to pee.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It brings a whole different aspect because it's like you're in the moment.
It almost makes you mad.
Literally, yeah. Doing compression's a little bit harder because...
But it makes you give, I guess, better quality impressions or compressions because you're like, oh, I gotta pee. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we get dispatched to this pregnant lady who water has been broke for a while.
Oh, God. Why do they call so late?
That's what I'm saying. And that's what both of us were upset about en route. Like, dude, come on. You know that you knew this was coming. You know that you had a bag packed. Your family knew. Whatever. Yada, yada, yada.
Can I interject and say from the other side of
yes, please.
As a patient,
please do, because it's go ahead.
From someone who there have been many times when I've needed help going into anaphylaxis. I've been that patient to like understand I need help right now, but I don't want it because I don't want to comprehend what's going on. But then I also, especially as a paramedic now, but like in that time, I see the stress that it brings of like literally being asked by my first partner ever, why didn't you say something sooner? And literally not being able to physically say it, but mentally like, I didn't want this.
Yeah. I didn't want to burden.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't want to burden someone else.
Yeah. So
that's a huge thing.
I get it. But also, why didn't you call sooner?
Right. But no, I'm so glad that you brought this up. Because she was 28 weeks pregnant.
Ooh. Ooh. Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're en route to this house. And we're expecting, like, full term. Like, you should have been known this was going on. Yada, yada, yada. And again, this goes back on the having the ability to be compassionate and understanding. And knowing that you are being called to a household because you need to be there. And stop having that mentality. Right? So we show up. And I'm ready for a baby. Bring it to me. Let me hold it. I want to see it. You know? But I'm also not. So my partner and I, Blake, we're getting ready to like unload the stretcher. Dad meets us at the front door. He says, baby's coming now. What do you mean by that? Okay, cool. I'm on my way inside. I'm running inside. I never run. No. I'm not good at cardio. I like to be in the gym, but cardio is not my favorite. So I'm like hop, skip, and a jump, and I turn around and I look at Blake. And this is why I love a freaking basic that can just know and just be there and be okay with it. Blake, get the OB kit. Said nothing else. Turn around, run inside. Catch the baby.
Oh, Jesus.
Literally catch the baby. Mom is laying on a mattress that has no sheets on it with a 2-year-old laying next to her. Baby takes a big deep breath. Oh, thank God. Thank you, Lord Jesus. I love you so much. Here comes Blake. My knight in shining armor. I promise you I would put a crown on his head to this day for this specific call. He said, I got the OB kit. I need the freaking things. That cut
the cutty
stuff.
Thingies.
The cut things. The scissors, Alex. Those. Alright. Hands them to me. Okay, I need the bulb with the suction thing. But you know?
The basics bulb, who get it.
Bulbs.
Yeah.
The basics that get it. And this is what I mean by like, and this is what anyone means by like, paramedics save lives, I guess. Question mark.
Yeah.
But basics save paramedics.
Hands down.
100%.
Because it's also, I feel like it's also that ability to like, we know all of the things that could go wrong. We're 5 steps ahead, whatever. With that education, with that training, this, that, and the other. We've gone through the scenarios. We've gone through the clinical ride times. We have to be that person that's in charge and all that stuff. But the basic is able to bring it back to BLS. Mm-hmm. And like I've made a whole episode about, and like I preach, BLS is before ALS.
Screw a paramedic. And tell me that they have my back.
I would take a basic that is confident in themselves and has experience over I would even go and venture as far as to say over myself.
Yep. I'm garbage without Blake. I'm garbage.
Facts. Yeah. Like if you don't have that good core foundation of any and every call of BLS before ALS.
Yeah.
Basic life support over advanced life support, you're going to fumble the bag on every call.
Oh, 100%.
And that's what, like, kind of now, one of my last partners who's now a flight medic, shout out to Cody, we were on the way to a, like, 3-month-old, something like that, infant in respiratory distress. And I looked at him and I was like, I know I'm up right now. I said, but I need you to lead this. Yeah. And he looked at me and he was like, dude, basics. Just know your basics. Get them to the hospital. That is all your job is required to do.
That's it.
Ever since then, it has been revolutionary of any call that I'm on. When I get to that moment of like, I don't know what to do right now and this patient is crashing, I go back to I hear Cody in the back of my head of, go back to the basics, dude. It's all good. We've got this. Hands down, 100%. And this is why, like, I feel like I've aimed the podcast of, like, you know, EMS providers and first responders, blah, 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 blah. But if nobody gets anything else from this podcast, I want people to remember in this field, BLS before ALS.
Yes.
Hands down. 100%.
As a paramedic, or at the bare minimum, just rely on your basic. Because they know. They know. They know when you're nervous.
Yeah.
They know when you don't know. They know when they need to bring a level to the field that is going to calm you. Or say, like, hey, you're retarded, but I'm going to go to the hospital. Because that's what Blake would do.
Yeah.
You know, he'd be like, you're dumb. You know what I'm saying? Or, more importantly than that, he would say, hey, I think it's this. And that is something that I value so much. Having Blake's input. Blake saying, hey, I think it might be XYZ. Mm-hmm. Because again, tunnel vision is a big factor of being a paramedic. But Blake can say, I think that this might be the situation. And let's maybe put a little bit of energy into that. And I think just having someone who is knowledgeable and really cares means a lot to me.
Yeah. And
I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to. I don't care. It's fine. I'm not all-knowing. I never have been, and I never will be.
No.
That's fine by me. I don't want to be all-knowing.
No.
I don't want to be on scene and think, I know everything and no one else does. Please, give me your input.
Yeah.
I want your opinion. I do. I always have. I always will.
And it's twofold of that. Once you've reached the para-douche level of, I know everything, like, it's time to get out of that field. But it's also, I just, as much as we've talked about the paramedic level and this, that, and the other, blah, 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 we don't give enough credit to the basics who actually know what they're doing. Again, it goes down, it boils down to that idea that if you are a basic thinking of going into paramedic school, but you don't have those basic skills of how to get an assessment, how to talk to patients, how to move patients, I don't care how well you can put the stickers on a 12 lead. I don't care if you don't have those core things as a basic of how to do a DUNEB, how to ask
great example.
How to talk to a patient or how to talk to a family member and ask, like,
yeah, dude,
I know there's a lot going on right now. Can you please go get me a list of medications? Mm-hmm. and clearing at now the company I formerly worked for. One of those shifts was literally the basic, like, came out of nowhere while I'm like telling the paramedic that's clearing me, like, she's having a stroke. That's what's going on. We've done all the tests. She's on the monitor, all this stuff. The basic came out of nowhere and was like, here's a list of medication she's on.
Yeah.
And here's her past medical history. I looked at him. I said, I could hug you right now.
Yeah.
Like, that made the call.
A world of difference.
Yes. And it took out so much of my next step was like, how do I tell this family who is on the verge of like freaking out? How do I tell them I need all this information right now?
Right.
Because, like, how am I potentially about to talk to the flight crew and give them all this info?
My question to you is, do you remember being a basic and being in those shoes? Thinking, like, man, this is a tough situation. And I know that my partner is not thinking of these things. They're not thinking of health insurance. They're not thinking of past medical history. They're not thinking of XYZ. They're only thinking of what they're presented with right now. Do you remember being a basic and thinking those things?
No, absolutely. And that's what one of the first partners I worked with, I'll never forget it. It was after a call, which we went in thinking it was absolute nonsense, this, that, and the other. And turns out, like, the patient's septic. And he gets in the back and he's doing his stuff that I can't do, like starting an IV, all this kind of stuff, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just standing there and I was like, I am useless at this moment. So I was like, I'm going to go get medications and a medical history. And I'll never forget it. He looks over at me and says, thank you. And continues doing what he's doing. Looking at a 12 lead after, we'd set it up, all this stuff. I got all that. And it was right after I had fumbled the bag of a call where, like, the patient had a head injury and I took a wrong turn to the hospital and we had a whole conversation about all of that. And I'll never forget it. He was like, dude, it doesn't matter how many IVs I start. It doesn't matter if I can intubate. It doesn't matter if I can save this patient's life. If I can't depend on you to be there in that moment, he said, I can't do this by myself.
Dude, literally.
And I'll never forget it because I was like, so what I did was good. He was like, yes, please continue to have my back.
Yeah.
And it took a whole different aspect because I went from being like, I'm just a basic, I can't do anything, to like,
okay, so I got a purpose.
Right. I am a crucial aspect of this, right? And he's like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I will never forget that moment.
Never forget that.
And any time, like, I'm working with the basic. Recently, my last partner I had, she said something along those lines of, she was like, well, you're the paramedic. And I looked at her and said, no, we're a team. Mm-hmm. And Ken, if you're listening, I contribute that 100% to,
I love it.
I had a partner from my beginnings of EMS who actually put in time for me and actually gave an effort to be like, no matter how many things I can do, if I don't have somebody else as a basic, as a paramedic, whatever, to be there with me, I'm going to absolutely screw up this call.
Shout out Ken.
Yeah, Ken is one of the real MVPs.
I don't even know Ken, but shout him out. Good for him.
Yeah.
But I think that is such a significant character trait of who he is as a paramedic, because you don't come across a lot of paramedics that genuinely take into account what they have as partners, which is sad, because I remember being an EMT and thinking, I'm just gonna keep my thoughts to myself, like yada yada yada. And then my paramedic partner was doing CPR on a person who was alive. Or my paramedic partner was IOing a patient who was GCS of 15 without giving him warning. But it was because of my fear of not being able to say, like, yo, you're wrong. We should not be doing this.
Yeah.
That's not okay. You know? And having a paramedic and EMT-basic partnership that they have equal rights and both contribute to a call really means a lot, and it makes a huge difference. Blake can tell me, Alex, you're wrong, and I will listen.
So to kind of wrap up what you're saying, and I'm going to give my last closing statement. The company I formerly worked at, and I'll name drop them because I still have so much respect for them. The most impacting thing I've heard from this job, and it's been almost 3 years on the dot, has been from Steven Simon, who said, at the core of every call, you should not know who the medic is and who the EMT is, because when it goes down to the basics, the BLS before ALS, but it also goes to the aspect of this is a team job. And I, again, much respect for Steven, hands down, 100%. I respect Steven because of that statement of, with all of his experience, with all of everything he has behind his last name, all of that, how much time he's put into this job, the ability for him to go on a shift and review stuff from his paramedic school and all of that, been in flight, done all the things. The fact that he can still look back and say, it doesn't matter what your level of cert is, you are still a team on this job.
And you know what's funny is you actually said that and quoted that in a previous podcast. When you show up on the scene, no one knows who the paramedic and the EMT is. And since listening to that podcast, I have carried that with me. And I didn't even know that came from Steven. Genuinely. And I've even quoted it to other people. So to know that it came from him means so much, but also just like to credit you, because what your podcast is doing, it means a lot. You're giving people a platform to have a dialogue about what we do and have input. Even if sometimes we feel like we're a small fish in a very big pond, yes, or lake or ocean.
Ocean is accurate.
Whatever you would describe it as, but at the end of the day, we have input, and I appreciate that. So thank you, Alexis Hardwick, so much for giving that to us. But furthermore, yeah, Steven, he has, man, I'll tell you this much. There are, on my hand, very few people that I will accredit who I am as a paramedic to, and he's most certainly one of them. Lane Abshire is another one. Jacob Davis, Renee Guidry, and Taylor, he's one too,
Taylor Houston is the
He's
MVP.
He's amazing. And I feel like he doesn't give himself enough credit for what he has done and will continue to do. But at the end of the day, we have so many people that we look up to, and I'm grateful to be on a podcast where others can potentially look up to us, it means a lot. That's cool. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you taking your time. And for those of you who have been on this, potentially more than likely part 2 of this episode, there's been a lot of stuff off the air that we've talked about. And Alex, I'm not saying this just because you're here. Like, I selectively handpick who I have on this podcast because of who they represent in the field, outside of the field, and stuff like that. And it has been an honor to have you on.
Oh, thank you so much.
Appreciate you. Appreciate what you've brought to this podcast and this platform. And as much as I appreciate obviously what you just said, but So like I'll tell you or anybody that I have on this platform, every episode brings something new and a new perspective to this field, to the listeners not even in this field and stuff like that. And you've definitely brought that, and I appreciate you beyond words.
Thank you.
Hands
so
down.
much. And let me be honest, there has been a lot of people, including myself, that has thought, this girl doesn't have a lot of experience in EMS. How could she possibly understand? Right?
Yeah. No, that's one of the hurdles of starting this podcast. I think I said it in my first introduction episode. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing in this field, let alone on this podcast. So buckle up.
Hope that you include this on this episode. There has been a lot of doubts, including myself, but you're doing a great job. Coming from someone who doubted you, I think you're doing a great job.
I'm going to keep that little piece of recording and save it for myself. And before every episode, just play that and be like, I've got this.
You do. You're doing fantastic, man. You really are. I didn't know what was going to come out of this, but you're doing a great job, and the rest of us appreciate it. Genuinely. They might not realize it now, but they certainly will.
So on this emotional aspect, I'm gonna close this out. Thank you for holding on, and so with that, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or future topic ideas, please email me at 22@thelipspodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's 22@thelipspodcast@gmail.com. Be safe out there, friends, and never stop learning.